On this episode of the MHM Social, I chat to the man who won the most iconic final in snooker history, Mr. Dennis Taylor. Dennis, thanks for joining me today, mate. I appreciate that. How are you?
I'm great, Michael. Yeah, just looking forward to getting back on the old golf course, just to get a bit of exercise. So at the moment, I'm walking 4 standard poodles, so that's my exercise, keeping me reasonably fit. But definitely missing the old golf at the moment.
I know, me too, mate. Me too. I'm looking forward to a game when it all passes. But yeah, thanks for joining me. I want to go back. I want to start at the very, very beginning. I know you're a man who likes all your sports. You know, we talk about golf. You like your football, your Manchester United. How comes it was snooker? What made you get into snooker? And, you know, when did you realise that you had a talent there?
Well, it was just a strange thing. I was walking up past the local police station where we lived. You had to go up a hill, Plater's Hill it was called. And there was a club there with 2 tables, no alcohol or anything. And one day the door was open and I seen the tables and the green cloth and the balls, the coloured balls, you know, whizzing around on the table. And it just fascinated me. And I knew my brother used to play a little bit. My dad very rarely played, but used to go in the club. So I asked my brother if they would let me go into the club. And I was only 8 or 9 at the time. So they let me sit on the side and watch the players playing. And I used to hold the rest for them. So I would hand them the rest. And then eventually, because I was a good little boy, they let me stand on a lemonade box and play a few shots every now and again. And that's really how it started. And by the age of 14, I'd become the best at billiards and snooker because they played an awful lot of billiards back in those days. And yeah, I'd become very good at 14, but never ever played more than within a 10-mile radius. Used to play in leagues and that. Good standard of play, but didn't realize how good I was until I moved to England when I was 17, and I moved over just to work in England. And then I found out when I went into the local snooker club that I was as good as the top amateurs. And then I started to play a lot more then.
So you turned professional in 72, I believe. First World Championship in 73. But we'll move on to the great successes of the World Championship for you. But in 75, I believe you had to go over to Australia and fund yourself.
Yeah, well, it was building up, as you said, 72, 73 season. I lost out to Cliff Thorburn on a deciding frame and became firm friends with Cliff. We still are to this day, best of buddies. So it built up to that. And then 1975, Eddie Charlton took the World Championship to Australia. Well, I mean, I had no money and I managed to get shows with the local brewery in Blackburn. And the money that I got for doing the shows went to pay my own fare to go to play in the World Championships in Australia. 1975, couldn't even afford a hotel. And I finished up staying with this friend of Graham Miles, Roger Brown from Birmingham. I can remember his name. I got through to the semi-final and lost out to Eddie Charlton. That was up to Brisbane where I had to play. That was one of the big stepping stones to my career, really. So having to pay my own way to go there, as I did the year before to go to Canada, that was a really big break. I went to Toronto, paid my own way to go there and got through to the final. But because I did so well out there, I got invited into Pop Black. And I got to the final of Pop Black the first 2 years, 1975, 76. And that really was the start of my career. And then I just gradually got better and better.
So you start from there, you go and you establish yourself, you start winning, you move on to 79 and you have the near miss. I want to move forward to 85 and the great year. When you go into the tournament that week, after kind of, you're talking 6 years previous, you're in the final and you haven't, I'm right in saying you haven't come close in that 6-year period. Do you go into that week believing you can win? You're not a young pro anymore. I know you've got your family then. Do you go in there with the same intensity as a young pro thinking you can win?
Not that many months before, I won the first ranking event. I won the Rothmans Grand Prix. That was just after my mum had passed away. I wasn't going to even play in it. She died suddenly at 62 years of age and devastated. But in the end, I went over, played in that and sort of played with my mum in my mind. And it was amazing how I won that. I beat Neil Foles, who was number 3 in the world. I beat him 9-2 in the semi-final. And then I beat Cliff Thorburn, who was world number 1 at the time, I think. I beat him 10-2 to win my first ranking event. So when I went into the World Championship in 85, I was playing pretty well, even though I was ranked number 11 in the world. Not a lot of people would have given me much chance of winning it, but I knew if I could carry on playing like that, I would have a great chance. And sure enough, I did. I got through to the final in 1985 with a session to spare in the quarterfinal and a session to spare in the semi-final. So I was looking forward. I was hoping Steve Davis would get beat in the other semi-final because he was dominating the game throughout the 80s. But sure enough, he got through, and I had to do battle for 2 days over 4 sessions against the great Steve Davis.
Do you think that first session when you go 7-0 down, I believe, do you think that actually helped you take the pressure off? You sort of think, well, I've got nothing to lose at this stage.
It certainly didn't help me, because all I did was sit in the seat for the whole of the afternoon, and I wasn't doing much wrong. I just wasn't getting a chance. Lost the first one in the evening, and I thought, God, this. And I know the TV, BBC, and Embassy, the sponsors, thought this is going to be the worst final ever seen on television. And sure enough, when I won my first frame, even though I went 9-1 behind, I managed to win the last 6 frames of that first evening's play. And the last 6 frames, nearly all the frames I won with 1 visit. So I kept him in his seat for the evening session, and I was only 2 behind going into the final day. So all of a sudden it becomes a great final.
Yeah, I imagine. Well, you say they thought it was going to be the worst one. It ended up being the best one. But, you go into that final day. How do you stay? Something I've always wanted to answer, a world champion, and is how do you stay in the moment? When you're going into that final session, you're playing the shots. Is there a part of you that's thinking about what's going on at home, the 20 million people watching? How do you keep that focus on the table, or don't you, and you just have to deal with it?
You just focus on the match, and you take it just, I know it's an old cliche, but when I did bring an autobiography out, it was called Frame by Frame, and that's exactly what you had to do. And I remember I would always chat with somebody that was sitting next to me, and I remember two gentlemen there, not while the frame was going on, obviously, but in between frames, I'd chat to them, or I was chatting to my mum a lot. My dear old mum, I was having chats with her while Steve was at the table, because you can't do anything. I didn't really want to watch him while he was playing, so I wasn't really looking at the table. I was maybe looking at the legs of the table or underneath the table, and I was just focusing when I got a chance at the table. And then when I did get back, I could never get in front of him. Every time I draw level, he'd pull ahead again by a couple of frames, and it kept going like that. But I knew I was still always in it, and everybody still thought he was going to win it. And at whenever it was 17-15, first to 18, I remember David Vine saying they'd got the big giant check that they used to present. They had it ready. They were stood at the back of the commentary box when he was 17-15 up, thinking it was going to be all over. And they had to go back to the sponsors lounge because I won the next 2 frames and leveled it at 17 each. So nobody could have ever dreamt that it was going to finish the way it did and go to the last frame. And for the last frame to carry on to 20 past midnight and to have nearly 19 million people still tuned in. I mean, it was crazy when you think about it. And I was trying to win my first world championship, 36 years of age. I wasn't going to have many more chances. So I just give it everything. And at the end of that final, yeah.
Was you actually enjoying the moment of playing, or is it too tense to enjoy? Do you almost switch off and just in an autopilot playing the shots?
I was enjoying it, but one of the things that kept me going as well is the 2 chaps I was chatting to. There's a balcony there where the families can sit. You can't really see them because it's dark up there. But I knew Steve Davis's fans. There was maybe half a dozen of them. They called them the Romford crowd, they were known as. And when I missed, I could hear them. They were going, "Come on, my son! Come on, Stevie Davis! Come on!" And they didn't realize it, but they were cheering me on. Maybe if they hadn't been cheering for Steve, he might have just won. But they fired me up, and I was playing as much. Well, I'm going to show them. I'm not going to give up, And they helped me to keep going as well. So, but as I say, to the last frame, we both were in bits. I mean, the safety play was incredible, but we were going to miss chances because of the tension of a deciding frame. And really, it just seemed to capture the imagination of people that were tuning in, maybe that didn't see snooker before, because they were cancelling programs on television to stay with the final. And as I said, they stayed right there until 20 past 12, whenever 20 past midnight, when that final black disappeared into the corner pocket. Yeah, it was just incredible to have been involved in a piece of history like that.
Yeah, I mean, undoubtedly one of the greatest moments of sporting history. So the black goes in, you do the famous pose. Do you realise the magnitude of the moment and how much your life was going to change after that?
Yeah, you didn't at the time. I mean, I didn't know how to react. I think I stamped the cue a few times, and then I raised the cue above my head, a pose, and wagged my finger. And it's a pose that people still do to this day if they see me and meet me for the first time. And if they have a pair of glasses on, the number of people that turn their glasses upside down and wag their finger and raise an imaginary cue above their head, it's incredible to think that it's still, 36 years on, and people still remember it. So, I mean, I've seen so many great finals, but everybody seems to remember that one. And even Steve Davis says he'll remember that more than the 6 that he won, which, coming from Steve, is quite something. And you've heard him talk about it as well, Michael. And you'd think he'd be absolutely fed up to the teeth talking about it, but he handles it well, and he seems to enjoy chatting about it.
He does. He said that to me. He said, I get asked more about the final I lost to Dennis and the 6 ones I won. He said, so, I've got to get used to talking about it. But, like you say, no one will forget that final. Any generation, even if you wasn't around at the time, you know about that final just because it's so iconic in sporting history. And you mentioned the glasses. I want to go on about them, actually. How did the glasses come about?
Well, I mean, I used to take my glasses off to play snooker. I had always pretty poor eyesight, and I did well considering the eyesight I had. I had a bit of success. I won the Irish Championship 6 times, beat Alex Higgins a few times. So if you're beating someone like Alex Higgins with pretty poor eyesight, I knew I needed to try something, and I tried contact lens. And I almost won the World Championship with a contact lens. There was special soft lens, and I couldn't get on really that well with them, but I got on well enough, and it took me through to the final that year. I beat Steve that year, funny enough, and I beat the great Ray Reardon. I beat him 13-8, which was quite a win. And then I lost in the final to Terry Griffiths, but that was with the contact lens. I couldn't get on with the lens, and I knew I've got to get glasses. And John Pullman, Fred Davis had all worn glasses, but there were special little small glasses that swiveled. But the pair that I won the World Championship with, Jack Carnan, who was a BBC commentator and a professional, his family business was making spectacle frames. He did that as a young man. And he actually had a pair like that. Nobody had ever seen them because he never appeared on TV. I said, Jack, make me a pair like the ones you have. And they're fixed, you don't have to swivel at them. And they did look a bit strange. And without Jack Carnan and the upside down glasses, I don't think I'd have won the World Championship. So it was dear old Jack that made those glasses for me that made me win that famous final.
Well done, Jack. And I tell you what, Specsavers have missed a trick, because how they've not got you in as the face of that yet. With contact lenses.
I think it was, it might have been Vision Express, it was one of the first adverts for 2 for the price of 1. And I had to say, I had the 2 pair. I said, where did I put the other pair? And I had both pair on, one up above the other pair. So Deirdre Barlow in Coronation Street used to wear the big glass. They looked like upside down glasses. Ladies' glasses were designed similar to the ones that I had. They were the big in thing with glasses at the time. They created quite a stir, and people remember me as much for the upside down glasses. Yeah.
And I want to move on now from a great career either side of that World Championship win, and you go into the commentary box. And I was listening to an interview with you and Ronnie the other day, and I think you said every year since 1973 you've been involved in either capacity at the World Championship. Now, it's a long time. We spoke about your great final, and I just wondered, what is the final that sticks out to you? What's the best final in your opinion?
There were so many great finals, but probably the one that would stick out was Jimmy White and Stephen Hendry, which went to a deciding frame. I think for the reason that Jimmy had lost in 5 finals. it's a bit of a tragedy that he never became world champion, to lose in 6 finals. But that one where he lost in 1994, where he lost in the deciding frame, that was one of the ones that I remember. It sticks out. But there's been so many great finals that Ronnie O'Sullivan's been involved in. And I remember Judd Trump losing to John Higgins. I think that might have been 2011. Judd Trump came on the scene then, and I'd never seen anybody pop balls like he did that year. He was very unlucky not to beat John, but John was at the top of his form. But that was an unbelievable standard that was played. And Judd Trump, I'll remember, for the balls that he potted, he's now proving, it's took him a few years, but he's now proving just that, he's the top player in the world at the moment. A host of great finals, and some that were won quite comfortably, but I think everybody tends to remember the close ones. It's a bit like watching golf. If Tiger wins a tournament with 10 shots in front, you don't really remember it that much. But if it goes down to the last hole, you always seem to remember them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very true. It's like the guy comes out and he wins it early convincingly. It's probably the best performance, but it's not the one that gets remembered. So you do remember the first ones, you're right. And I've got to ask you, Dennis, we've seen some great players over the years: Ronnie O'Sullivan, Steve Davis, Stephen Hendry, Jimmy White. Go back further than that. In your opinion, who is the best?
It used to be Steve Davis, Stephen Hendry, Ronnie O'Sullivan, and then it changed round. And then I had Stephen Hendry as number one, Steve second, and then Ronnie third. But Ronnie, the way he came on to win the amount of titles and beat all Stephen Hendry's records, he's the only player I would use the word genius about. I mean, to talk about Jimmy White, Alex Higgins, naturally gifted players. Ronnie O'Sullivan's in another league. He is a genius around the snooker table. So I think most people would agree now. Some would still go for Stephen Hendry, but for me, Ronnie, without doubt, is the greatest that's ever picked a snooker cue up.
Yeah, I think if Ronnie's right there, I don't think there's anyone who can beat him. I mean, he's the only one who can beat himself, I think, sometimes. Just incredible to watch. Incredible.
Well, he's still proving it at 45 years of age, and he could still win another 1 or 2 world titles. That's the only thing he's still behind Stephen Hendry on. Stephen's still got 7. Ronnie's up to, has he got 6 now? I think it is. I hope it is. Yeah, he had 5. He won this. Yeah, 6. So I think he could even beat that record of Stephen Hendry's. But Stephen would like to keep one record. He can't have Ronnie taking them all off him.
No, it'd be very interesting to see. And, because of the 85 final and because of, what an endearing character you are, you go on and you do all these TV programs like Strictly Come Dancing, the Marigold Hotel, and you become this real sort of like national treasure. What's the best moment outside of snooker that you've really enjoyed? The moment where you've kind of went, 1 minute, I'm Dennis Taylor, I'm sitting here, I'm doing this, I can't believe it, I'm on Strictly Come Dancing. What's the moment that stands out to you?
Well, they were all brilliant to do, all them shows. I mean, I loved every single one of them. But if there was a moment to pinch yourself, it would have to be with my good friend, Cliff Thorburn. When we went to the Masters 2001 with Ian Woosnam. I mean, Ian was my best man when I got married again, 2001. And Cliff always dreamt about going to the Masters. Ian was the president of our World Snooker Association. For 3 years, he was president. And we had a few drinks one night, and he invited Cliff to go. And Cliff never stopped ringing me. He said, listen, Woozy said I can go to the Masters. Said, if he said you can go to the Masters, you can go. So sure enough, we headed off, and we stayed with Ian in a house that he had. There was just 5 of us in the one house. But where you pinch yourself was the first day driving up Magnolia Lane. And because we were with Ian, we had family passes. We got in to the clubhouse and had breakfast on the balcony of the clubhouse at the Masters Golf. Now, it just doesn't get any better than that. I mean, that was a moment that Cliff Thorburn will never forget, and I'll never forget, to be sitting there having breakfast and then seeing around the locker room with all the great Masters champions' names on there. I know it's something you'd love to do, Michael, but yeah, that was an unbelievable time for Cliff and me.
No, incredible. And I'm going to tell you a surreal pinch yourself moment for me, actually, because we do the shows, we go out, yourself, Steve, John, and usually when we finish the shows, we're somewhere random like Yeovil or Weymouth or Newcastle, wherever it may be, and we'll have a nice bit of dinner, usually sorted out by you or Steve or John and someone in a nice restaurant, and they've laid on this lovely spread for you, and I get to tag along. I think it was Yeovil we was one night, and we finished and there was nowhere open. And we were staying in this Airbnb type place, so there's no food there. And it's about 11, half 11 at night, and we can't find anywhere. So we go, tell you what to do, guys. I'll drive down the supermarket and I'll get some stuff and we'll get some food and I'll get back and I'll make it. We'll have some snacks and we'll have a beer or whatever and we'll have a chat. And I go into this big sort of 24-hour supermarket, Sainsbury's, Tesco's, wherever it was. And I'm walking through there, and with you and John, Steve's went off to his luxury hotel at this stage. You know, he's went somewhere else. And we're walking through this supermarket, and we're picking out stuff. And you guys have got your full sort of like tuxedo, bow ties, stuff on, looking the part. And as I'm walking along, everyone's just going, "That's Dennis Taylor and John Virgo." They're walking along in full gear at like midnight in a random supermarket in Yeovil, and then we go to the self-service checkout because there's no one working, and I try to take the lead. I'll put this through, guys, don't worry. I can't work it out as I'm never able to work those things out. You go, I'll do it. You're trying to work it out, can't do it. John goes, I'll do it. And then I'm sitting there, I've taken a step back, and I think I've got Dennis Taylor and John Virgo standing at a self-service checkout trying to put through these sandwiches. It was just like a moment where, how does this happen? How did I end up here? So that was my one, man.
I remember it well, Michael. Yeah. Let's hope we can get back to a bit of normality and get those shows going again, because everybody enjoyed them, and I know Steve loves doing them. John loves doing them, and just to get out and meet the people, it just wonders if it's ever going to happen again. But I'm sure it will, and let's hope later in the year we can start doing them again.
No, it will do, mate. It will do. I'm sure of that. You know, I love the shows. It's been a tough time. It's been a tough time for everyone, but I'm sure that, you know, better times are coming around. And, you know, we've got your golf day to look forward to on May 21st at Withington Golf Club, the Dennis Taylor Classic. It's going to be a great competition in the daytime and some fantastic entertainment at night time. Are you looking forward to that one?
Just to have a chat with everybody and tell a few stories, and they can get involved and have a few questions from them. Wouldn't it be great if we could do that again, and hopefully in May? But if not May, listen, we'll do it. Whenever we can do it, we'll do it. And we've got to get back to some sort of normality sooner rather than later, yeah?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that day. It's going to be a really good one. I'm looking forward to catching up with you and getting back out on the golf course, because you're not just a demon on the snooker table. You're pretty handy on the golf course too, mate. And company is always superb. Generally one of the funniest people I know, and always a pleasure. So thanks for doing this to me today, mate, and can't wait to catch up with you.
Yeah, look forward to it, and I need plenty of shots off you. I think my handicap's gone up with this new system, so you'll have to give me another 1 or 2 shots, Michael, but you'll be able to cope with that. But look forward to seeing you soon.
You too, mate. We'll have a stewards inquiry on that handicap. Don't worry about that when we do any betting. Cheers,
Michael.
Pleasure, mate. Pleasure. Hi, guys. Michael McPherson here. To celebrate having the legend Dennis Taylor on the MHM Social, I'm going to give away a signed Dennis Taylor black ball. To have a chance of winning it, you need to go over to the MHM Social page, subscribe to it, like, and leave a comment on the post. Then 7 days after the post goes live, I'll select a winner. Good luck, guys. And as always, thank you so much for listening.